What is happening, folks? We are back on the channel today for some more ONE Championship news because Takeru Segawa is back at ONE Friday Fights 81, as we knew, but now we have the opponent confirmed as well for his second fight in ONE Championship. A couple of things to clear up before we jump straight into this video. First of all, my voice is getting a lot better than it was when I recorded the ONE Fight Night 24 preview. So thank you for people that checked that video out. It's doing a little bit better now. Still not, back completely, but doing a bit better, especially better than I was doing at the time of recording that video. And also another thing, just kind of housekeeping, I guess, before we get into the rest of this video. I always refer to Takeru as Takeru. I know some people say Takeru. Pronunciation, is a difficult thing being from England and covering ONE Championship over in Asia. So I apologize if I am getting that wrong. Let me know in the comments if I'm saying it wrong, but I will refer to him as Takeru for the rest of this video. But yeah, anyway, we'll crack on with it. As I said, we found out last week that Takeru was going to be back on ONE Friday Fights 81, his second fight in ONE Championship. I already kind of reacted to this news, and we spoke about our impressions of this on the One on SK podcast with Nick Atkin. You can go check that out on the Sportskeeda MMA Originals channel. You can watch back the live replay of that podcast from last week. Was it last Wednesday or Thursday or something like that? So we were kind of speculating the opponent. Nick obviously knew the opponent at the time. I did not. And now we have it. He is going to be taking on Black Panther. It will be a flyweight kickboxing bout Friday, September 27th at Lumpini Stadium. This will be one of the big Friday fights cards. I believe 4 a year is what they're going for, which will be pay-per-view. Of course, also this year we had DeBella versus Prajanchai, that rematch. And then what was the one? Was there one earlier on in the year? Yeah, there must have been. Which, let me think for a second. Was it God, I can't think. My mind's gone blank. So we'll was it the Bella Prajanchai, the first one? And there was another title fight on that card as well, right? My mind's gone blank. Regardless, right? So this will be on pay-per-view. As let's talk about Takeru being on Friday Fights first, right? Because it does feel a little bit underwhelming, I think, considering how much of a star he is, that he's going to be fighting in Lumpini. You would imagine that he would be fighting in Japan, right? Where he's a huge star and not a small stadium in Thailand. But as I spoke about with Nick, to kind of give you the shortened version of what we spoke about on the podcast for like half an hour. This was not the plan, right? Takeru Rodtang was the plan. That isn't happening now. There was a Japan card that was maybe going to happen. That isn't happening anymore. So I would rather they give Takeru a fight than just keep him waiting for a Japan card, because who knows when that's going to happen, probably sometime next year. So I would rather they gave him a fight rather than not give him a fight. Admittedly, I don't think this scenario is perfect. Of course, you would rather have him on a big arena card or something like that. It would have been cool to see him on the US cards even. But instead we have this, like I said, happy that he's been kept active if that's what he wants to do. You would still imagine the plan is for him to fight Rodtang sometime next year, so I'm happy with that. And in terms of Black Panther as an opponent, I don't think it's, they haven't, it's a good opponent, I think, not a great one. There are tougher tests I think you could have put him up against, but at the same time, he's coming off of fighting Superlek, who might be the best striker in the promotion. Maybe Chingiz Alazov would have something to say about that, but I think Superlek is certainly top 3, if not top 2, if not top 1 even. And coming off of a long injury as well, suffered from that Superlek fight, the damage that was done to his legs back in Japan at the start of January, end of January rather. So I don't hate this fight. I think it's a decent one. I definitely think that there could have been like I said, it's a good one for me. There could be worse opponents, there could be better opponents. I'm kind of like, yeah, that works. I'm interested to see it. In terms of Black Panther, people might remember he was last in action at the start of July at One Fight Night 23. he got one of the best knockouts of the night, probably one of the best knockouts on the main roster on these fight night cards in some time. That head kick that landed against Ali Saldoyev in the second round, that was a really big win for him because I thought Saldoyev looked good in his previous fight. I did go back and watch it. His record in one championship is 3-1. He lost his debut to Tagir Kalalov via first round knockout, and now is riding a 3-fight win streak, split decision, unanimous decision, and then the knockout in his last one. I did go back and watch his fight before the Saldoyev fight as well against Suryanlek. Might have butchered that. Don't think I did. Let's say I didn't. At One Friday Fights 35, that was in September last year. And it was a good fight. I thought that he definitely deserved the decision, did the cleaner work. The one thing maybe that you would say in that fight is Suryanek kind of has more of like a marauder style compared to Black Panther's more distance game. And Suryanek was able to do some damage to him and by closing the distance and dropped him in that second round and nearly turned the tide. But Black Panther came back strong in that third round to seal the win. But Takeru isn't a guy that's going to go in there and start blitzing at Black Panther or anything crazy like that. So I don't, not to say that you can learn much from that fight, but I did think I'd go back just to see how he's been getting on in his last few fights. It was a good performance. It wasn't spectacular. I thought he did well to come back from that second round knockdown and won the first and the third. So yeah, it was a decent performance, good win, and then that last one what really kind of put him in the mix for a big fight. Didn't expect it to be this one, of course, but still in the mix for a big fight nonetheless. So I think that pretty much sums up this one. Again, it's not the ideal scenario, I think, in terms of the opponent, in terms of the destination, things like that. But like I said, if Takeru wants to fight, I'm happy he's being given a fight rather than just having to wait. And one championship saying, look, we signed you so that we can put on big events in Japan. You're going to have to settle in Japan. I'm glad that he's getting to fight here. And also, in terms of one championship's point of view, this card being on pay-per-view, I'm not totally sure how well these Friday Fights pay-per-views do. I'm sure they do, decently enough. I don't personally know whether it justifies being on pay-per-view sometimes. However, having Takeru justifies it being on pay-per-view because of the fan base that he has. I believe this fight was announced at a press conference yesterday in Japan. I haven't seen anything from that, so I don't know whether Takeru spoke about this fight at all. Let me know if people have already checked that out. I just saw that that's where it was official. And whilst we are talking about this card, another fight has also been confirmed for this card, which again we speculated about on the One on SK podcast last week, and that is the former world champion Ilias Ennahachi is back, returning to One Championship, returning to the bantamweight kickboxing division, where he will be taking on another former champion in Hiroki Akimoto, who also made his return to the promotion earlier this year. Akimoto obviously was back in action at One Fight Night 22, where he fought Wei Ray in a very, very close fight. Wei Ray got the nod. I expected to see this one run back, to be honest, with how close that fight was. And then you've got, he hadn't fought in a long time. He lost the title to Petsonon all that time ago. What was it? November of 2022. So it was good to see Hiroki back out there, and it was a close fight with Ray Ray. Like I said, I thought they would have run that one back. I believe Chatri said that he thought Hiroki won, so surprised to see that one hasn't been put back together. As for Ilias Ennahachi, we last saw him in One Championship actually on Friday Fights last year in February, so we're going back some time even for that one. And then before that, it was February of 2021 where he beat Superlek. So the man has got some pedigree. Like I said, former world champion versus former world champion. When we spoke about this on the One on SK podcast, the way I see it, you kind of have these four guys now with Hiroki Akimoto and Wei Ray, obviously fought each other before. You've got Petsonon, again, also fought Hiroki. He came back with a win recently. Who did Petsonon on his return? That was the recent fight night. Was that a fight night 23 as well? Let me just pull this up. It was Friday Fights, wasn't it? It was the tentpole Friday Fights card where he beat Alaverdi Ramazanov. Yeah. And looked good as well. So there's kind of 4 guys, right? You have Wei-Ray, Akimoto, Ennahachi, and Petanong. Did I just say? Yeah, that's right. Getting confused there. The way that I kind of said on the podcast, I would have rather have seen Akimoto and Wei-Ray run that one back because it was so close. And then you have Ennahachi versus Petanong, which is a fantastic fight. And then you kind of have this little 4-man tournament. And that's the way I would have preferred it going. Either way, still a great fight. I would still really like to see Wei-Ray and Petanong get put together, especially if they can be made, if that fight can be made for this card. So you kind of do have this little tournament, even if you just switch around the matchups. I think that would be really cool. Winner of this fight fights the other winner of the other fight, and out of it, you get a #1 title contender for Haggerty's bantamweight kickboxing belt, which I think it'd probably be a while until we see him defend that. You would imagine that if he comes through against Superlek at 1168 in Denver, which is a tall order, but obviously he's capable of doing it. You would imagine he will fight Nico Carrillo next, and potentially, if he loses to Superlek, then maybe he could defend the bantamweight kickboxing belt next. Who knows? But excited to see Ennahachi back. Excited to see Akimoto being kept active as well. That's a bonus too. But yeah, Ennahachi being back is the big one here. Former flyweight champ. Sorry, did I say bantamweight champ earlier? Akimoto is the former bantamweight champ, but Ennahachi was a flyweight champ. But yeah, this is a great fight. I don't know if this is going to be co-main event or whether we're going to get another title fight on this card. I wouldn't be surprised to see another title fight on this card. I guess a lot of the guys are pretty busy, so maybe not. But it would be cool. Either way, I think that these 2 fights, Akimoto versus Ennahachi and Takeru being back, you would imagine that would be the main event, him versus Black Panther. 2 fantastic fights for this card. I think that this is looking like a really strong pay-per-view for them. So yeah, great stuff. Let me know what you guys think about these 2 fights. Who are you picking? I'm sure a lot of people are going to be picking Takeru, but let me know what you think about Akimoto and Ennahachi. How do you feel about the Takeru fight announcement? Is it a little bit underwhelming? I can understand why people would think it's a little bit underwhelming. Like I said, I think it's good, not great. And the reason I think it's the reason I'm pushing more towards good than kind of like average is I understand why Takeru is fighting in Lumpini against an opponent that isn't Rod Tang, because it just hasn't worked out that way. And like I said, it pushes it into good for me because I would much rather Takeru get fights than not get fights. So I'm excited to see him back, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are too. Thank you for checking out this video. Check out the One Fight Night 24 preview if you haven't already, and enjoy the fights. And I will catch you sometime next week, I imagine. Until then, peace.